Hey, everybody. My name's Dustin Lucian. I'm the CTO at Betterment. Just quickly, I like to do this when there's an audience. Any Betterment customers in the audience? Great. Thank you. Thank you all for being customers. So it's Quovo and Betterment today. Quickly about Betterment, we're a 5-year-old online automated investment service. We manage roughly $4 billion in our customers' assets, and we have nearly 150,000 customers on the platform. Those that are customers are probably familiar with our retail, our direct-to-consumer platform. We also have Betterment Institutional, which is an RIA channel, and recently launched Betterment for Business, which is a 401k platform. In all of those efforts, our goal is to answer the question, what should you do, or what should I do with my money? And advice is key to answering that question, right? We want to be able to advise our customers as holistically as possible. So having a view of assets not only on our platform, but on other platforms is important to us. And so that led us to reach out to Quovo and start some conversations and start a really rich partnership that led us to build some very powerful tools on our platform that I'll demo a little bit later. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Michael to talk about the specifics of their platform, their API, and some specifics of the unique collaboration that we've been able to kick off between the two companies. So, Michael.
Thanks, Dustin. I'm Michael Del Monte. I'm the CTO of Quovo. We've been around about as long as Betterment, a little bit less. And we do data aggregation, which means that we get financial data from institutions. We do all of the usuals that you would expect. We do banks and credit cards. We also do the more complicated things like retirement services, life insurance policies. And the joint presentation today is to share with you guys an integration that we think went spectacularly well. We really enjoyed doing it, and we have done something in a very short amount of time that has been to the great benefit of both companies. And the lessons from our experience are fairly simple and common sense, but we're gonna repeat them for you because we had a great experience, and it's good to remember that sometimes the simple things are the best. I'm going to talk a little bit about the API at first, and how we give data to Betterment and how they ask for it, and then I'd like to pass over the gory bits of it and talk about the collaboration between us, which is really where we had the most success. And also at the end, there's a little bit of a Hollywood finish because the rollout was extremely successful, and I'd like to share with you some of the details about that. So first, I'm going to talk about the API, which is how do I move this? So the API, obviously, is just the integration between Betterment and Quovo. And John is going to demonstrate the bits of it with Postman, which is a fantastic tool. So the API, our API is RESTful. And this is an acronym that, honestly, I'm not really sure what it means. But generally speaking, I think these days, people think of a RESTful API as one that is structured and hierarchical. So the goal that we had was to create a RESTful API that was easy to use, that was intuitive, and that didn't have a lot of overlap or misleading dead ends or misleading areas where you thought you would get one thing and get another. So we start the API with getting a token. You get a token to get access to the API. You do that in an authenticated way over HTTPS. And with that token, you can then access the rest of the API. The typical sequence in what we do is you're going to, as a client of Quovo, you're going to create a user entity for your client, if you're a financial advisor or an institution like Betterment. And that user will then, for that user, you're going to give us credentials for syncing up an account, which is your connection or that user's connection to a brokerage or a financial institution. So this is all done using a simple protocol, and it's just HTTPS, and you're going to get JSON back with a bunch of fields to tell you that it's confirmed and it's working. The user, as I said, can have accounts, and John, if you'll just show the accounts API. And again, this is, you use GET requests to get data or post to create something. So here, John would create a user, and then if he wants to create an account for that user, he has to pass credentials for the account to us. And where am I? Are we going too fast?
Okay.
Is that good?
I'm thinking now.
Okay, good. And then after an account has been created, with each request, we get an ID, and the ID can be used to start a sync, which is what we call the process of getting data from the financial institution. So John's going to simulate a sync here. The sync is going to request, and then he's going to get status. This one actually kind of flew by, and we've already got a good status for the account, which means we've gone into the institution, gotten all the details, and are now ready to hand over to you the positions and history for the account. Actually, I'm sorry, portfolios, positions, and history. An account at an institution can have multiple portfolios, so we divide we structure it that way. So we'll have, for any one login, all of the portfolios that belong to that account. And so for this portfolio, we have, this is just a test account. We're going to show you the account, the description, and metadata like the type of the account and how often we've updated it. We have things like the financial type of the account. Is it a 401k? Is it a brokerage account, et cetera? And then you can proceed with the account or the portfolio ID and get the positions. And you'll notice the structure is pretty intuitive. You ask for portfolios, positions, and you can give it the account ID. You can also ask for user positions and get all positions for a user, or all positions for the account for all portfolios within the account. And then the information is returned as a JSON object with all of the data that we get. Our job at Quovo is to get this data from many thousands of different institutions, to normalize it, clean it, and provide it to you in one format so that you're spared the gory mess of trying to get this information from one account, one brokerage or another, and put it all together. All of the data is cleaned and structured and has the same format. And then John's going to demonstrate a history request. So he's going to ask for history from that portfolio. And again, this is just a simple GET request with the portfolio ID, and you will get the history for this account. At Quovo, we try to get all of the history. So one of the first things we do when we do a sync is we go back in time as far as we can. Other aggregators typically will give you a few months' worth, sometimes 6 months' worth. We believe that the right way to do this is to get everything that you can possibly get, and then you have a more full picture of the account, so you know what the history has been. In many cases, we have accounts going back 10, 15, 20 years. So the history is then delivered as a JSON object, and within our API, paging is automatic. So if there are too many rows, you're going to get a partial list of the transactions, and then an indicator that you can fetch a next list. And this is, it's automatic. You just get the indicator and you just process and ask for the next sequence in the batch. And within the history, we have also transaction codes. So we have transaction typing. We do normalize all of the tickers, all of the securities that we see. So particularly for investment accounts, which is really that's where we began, and that's our strong suit. The securities are all normalized and have been coordinated with positions so that you get a complete and accurate and balanced picture of what's in the account. So that's kind of the API, and I didn't really want to get into the guts of it too much because APIs are not particularly difficult to do, but they can be annoying and frustrating if you don't have the other elements of what we did, which was collaboration and a close working between the two teams at Quovo and Betterment. And that's really what we're here to talk about, because the success that we had was a result of our teams working closely with their teams, responding to their requests for how to work through the API and maybe some things that we didn't think of that they needed. And this kind of thing makes the implementation go very, very quickly. We started at a point with them where I think they had already had a bad experience, so we got to look good right off the bat. But to give a measure of our success, we really worked this thing out over the course of about 14 days, maybe less, with about a total of 5 guys. So we went from 0 to implementation in, call it 2 weeks. And within that time, we made a couple of changes that they needed. One was simple things. They wanted a machine-readable field for the status code, which we had not had before. We thought human-readable would be fine. But we were wrong, and we put in a machine-readable thing. It took half an afternoon, and they were off and running. There were a couple other issues to work out with the workflow. Some of the API can get a little more complicated. I didn't want to get into the gory bits with multi-factor authentication, but it took an afternoon to work through that, and at the end of the day, the systems were integrated. So the proximity, and of course it helps that we're both located in New York, but the proximity of the 2 teams and the willingness to collaborate made this a very easy rollout. And the success story, I'll let Dustin talk about the numbers, but at the end, we did have one of those kind of Hollywood finishes where it was day 1 of the rollout, and we set up a Slack channel to communicate so we could see, both teams could see what happened, and the uptake, the success, the number of users rolled in at an alarming rate. It was faster than we anticipated, which was fantastic. Everything held together, nothing broke apart, and we both got to watch it happen in real time, and it was really fun. So with that, I'd like to reintroduce Dustin. He'll talk about the numbers and what happened.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm going to do a quick video in a second here. We'll just set it up. So numbers-wise, Michael's right. This was a really fast implementation for us. We did have a bit of a bumpy experience prior, and so it was a pleasure to work with the Quovo team. There were also other things that we did. We have an open Slack channel between the 2 companies, and so issues get resolved very quickly. And so I appreciate that. My team appreciates that. Numbers-wise, we have roughly 30,000 of our current customers link their accounts. They started linking their accounts when we first launched our aggregate view of data into our Retire Guide product. And that happened in a very short period of time, we'll say under 2 weeks. And it continues to grow. Our customers are seeing a lot of value out of us being able to deliver advice over held away assets. Another thing that we've built, you can go ahead and start the video. Well, wait, before we do that, one of the other things that was really important was the shape of the API allowed us to deliver the experience that we wanted to deliver to our customers. Betterment is known for a delightful experience. We're not going to shoot, I lost the word. We're not confuse the user. We're not going to complicate our experience. Thank you, Michael. That was the word I was looking for. We're not going to complicate our experience just to support a vendor's limitations. And so that was very important to us to be able to provide the experience that we're used to providing. So we can go ahead and start the video. I'll talk through it a little bit. It's our fee analysis service that we built. You can see we're linking a Fidelity account. No reason it's Fidelity other than that's easy for us to link up. You can select a particular account. You can set management fees if we aren't able to automatically calculate them. And then what you'll see is a portfolio view of those held away assets, the fee structure on those assets, the advisory fees on that account, and whether or not there's idle cash in that account. And we can start to deliver advice to a user of whether or not that's useful for them. Is that the best financial situation that they should be in? Might they be in a better financial situation if they transferred their assets over to Betterment? We're not going to manage those assets that are held away, but we'll give them the opportunity to move them over to Betterment right now. And we'll continue to deliver more advice like that now that we have portfolio information, transaction information, and all of that information on held away assets. We can provide transparency into how people should be managing their assets and answer that question, what should you do with your money? So I'm right at 10 seconds. I don't think we're doing questions, so thank you, everybody. I hope that was informative. Enjoy your day.